Part 2. Rejecting sinful practices. Rejecting God leads to sinfulness. 1 Corinthians 10:7-10. I'll give that a read for us. Neither be ye adulterers, as were some of them, as it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink, and rose up to play. Neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed, and fell in one day 23,000. Neither let us tempt Christ, as some of them also tempted, and were destroyed of serpents, as they were bitten. And Moses prayed and created a staff that the Israelites looked to for healing. Christ had to be lifted up too. For the Old Testament to New Testament, you see all these symbolic beauties. Neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured and were destroyed of the destroyer. Now all these things that happened to them for examples, and they are written for our admiration, upon whom the ends of the ages are to come. Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. There hath no temptation taken you but such as in common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that which ye are able, but will with the temptation will also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. Paul explained in 1 Corinthians 10:7-10 how one sin can lead to others. It can lead to stress, it can lead to tension, it can lead to a cumbersome yoke, it can lead to friction in family. The sin of idolatry led the Israelites indulgence, overly generous, or Latin with someone, sexual immorality, and lack of faith. So it's having to do with luxury, lust, or greed usually. Don't prioritize wrong love misplaced, or the desire of lust. Paul wanted believers in Corinth to learn from the Israelites' mistakes and reject these sinful behaviors. He illustrated his point by specifically referring to 4 Old Testament incidents where the Israelites' idolatry led to different kinds of sin. And so we see that the calf was created with time and craftsmanship, and they looked to it over God. And we'll go to Proverbs 9:21, 19. There are many devices in a man's heart, nevertheless the counsel of the Lord that shall stand. The desire of a man is his kindness, and a poor man is better than a liar. To have our integrity in God and to trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not on thine own understanding. It is so important. And then also Proverbs 13:12 went along with it. There was a show that I've been watching recently, and I think, hope deferreth make the heart sick, but when the desire cometh, it is a tree of life. Who despiseth the word shall be destroyed, but he that feareth the commandment shall be rewarded. Worshipping a golden calf, Exodus 32. I'm going to read verses 18 and 19 for us. But Moses answered, it does not sound like the cries of victory, nor does it sound like the cries of defeat. The sound that I hear are the cries of revelry. As he drew near the camp, he saw the calf and the dancing with that. Moses' wrath flared up, that he threw the tablets down and broke them on the base of the mountain. Taking the calf they had made, he fused it with the fire, and they ground it down to powder, which he scattereth on the water, and made the Israelites drink. And so now you see that calf and the water combining, and as well as that, you see that hard work that Moses went through, journeying to the top of the mountain and meeting the presence of God and the creation of the Ten Commandments, the outcome, how they couldn't even stay faithful to God without a leader for one moment. The people insisted that Aaron made us some gods who can lead us, verse 1. Then they worshipped the idol, verse 4. The people also rose up in play, which is 1 Corinthians 10:7, which refers to sexual revelry. About 3,000 died that day as God's judgment was meted out. And so now you see the 20 and older and a war to come, and some ways that judgment plays out. Not necessarily passive, but due to their sin and the friction that's probably caused from it. I'm going to read Matthews 5 and 6, 7, chapter 7. Thou hypocrite, first cast thy beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast thy mote out of thy brother's eye. Give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and render you. Not being grateful for the beautiful things that Moses did in retrieving, being the only one worthy in the midst, the Ten Commandments. And so to properly cast that beam out of Israel's eye, Moses had to probably do some pretty fluent speaking. Oh, also verse 17. Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. So, before I get into the Moabite gods, I wanted to mention Abraham and how he wasn't patient in the promise of the child, but with Hagar first creating Ishmael. And so now you see the worshiping of Moabite gods and the relations. I'm going to go ahead and read the first 3 verses of 25. And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab, and they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, and their people did eat and bowed down to their gods. And Israel joined himself unto Baal, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against them. And so now you see inheritance, and it passed on to their children, right? But we'll see even more of that when disobedient Israel continues to be disobedient Israel in spite of all God's promises and the way he was carrying them all the way through. And so some of the Israelites began having sexual relations with Moabite women and then joined them in worshiping Baal. God's judgment led to thousands of the Israelites dying in one day. And so we now see the grumbling against God and Moses. They didn't even keep the integrity of their belief. So we're going to go to Numbers 21, 5 and 6. And also we're going to do a little bit in 14, 18, 27, and 30. And the people spake against God and against Moses, Wherefore have ye brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread, neither is there any water, and our soul loatheth the light bread. And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much of the people of Israel died. But Moses prayed, right, for the people, and then they had that brass serpent. I won't get into it all. But also, 14, we're going to look at 18, 27, and 30. The Lord is long-suffering and great in mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression, by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the 3rd and the 4th generation. Your carcasses shall fall in the wilderness, and all that were numbered of you, according to the whole number, the 23 years old and upward, have murmured against me. Doubtless ye shall not come into the land concerning which I swear to make you dwell therein, saving Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, the son of Nun. So you see him staying true to his promises, but people losing out because of their disobedience, their doubt, and many other things. The Israelites questioned God's leading and provision, growing impatient with a detour around Edom. God sent venomous snakes among them, and many of the people died. God, in all he's done, and to bring him complaints and ungratefulness, but rather what we should do now is dwell in the blessings and reflect those testimonies as well. Believing the faithless spies, number 14:12. So, I will smite, we'll go 14 and 1 and 2, I'm sorry, that's what it was. All the congregation lifted up the voice and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron, and they would against the whole generation. And whole congregation said unto them, Would God thou have died in the land of Egypt, or would God we had died in the wilderness? And so now they started believing these promises, false promises from spies, or what they've said, not promises, I'm sorry. The Israelites believed the 10 spies' bad reports about the promised land. They claimed God had brought them out of Egypt only to be led into defeat and death. Oh, it was 21, 1 and 2 as well. I'll go ahead and read that after I finish this. God's judgment for their lack of faith was that their generation would die in the wilderness, so leaving them lost to perish, as they would have left God several times up on the mountain and over again in following different idols. This is the part right here. And when King Arad and the Canaanites which dwelt in the south heard that the Israelite came by the way of the spies, then he fought against Israel and took some of them prisoner. And Israel vowed a vow unto the Lord and said, If thou wilt indeed deliver this people into my hand, I will utterly destroy their cities. And the Lord hearkened to the voice of Israel and delivered up the Canaanites. And they utterly destroyed them that were in the cities, and he called the name of the place Hormah. So, the 10 spies died of a plague, in verse 35 and 36. These examples illustrate the importance of consistency following the Lord. If the Christians in Corinth went down the path of idol worship, sexual immorality, doubt, and complaining like the Israelites had, they would also reap destruction. Warnings. And we had the structure of Christ provided in 1 Corinthians 10, beautifully orchestrated by Paul through the Holy Ghost. Or vice versa. How might Christians today become involved in idol worship? Well, I felt I let my heart grieve overly, focusing on lost love. And so it says in 1 Corinthians 2:18, don't worship angels. Put God first. Dr. Martin Luther King was a great man, and he did many things through God. And he served and did great things, and now there's foundations honoring him. But what about God, who equipped him, in his glory? And so that is something to be seen. Versus clinging to the promises God had and reading and understanding his word, where we put our hearts, our love, our time, and our money matter. Some may live in the world seeking lustful desires, doubting capabilities, and complaining or gossiping, but rather we should seek the provision, blessings, faithfulness, and stand strong in the midst of trial. Heed the warning. So I read verse 11 already, so I'll continue in. It is wise to learn from examples of others. So we see Proverbs 13:20. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a comparison of fools shall be destroyed. And then, so we want to draw near to the right influences, right, and the right examples. And there's also a lot of really good stuff in James 3. 13 and 17. In Proverbs 10:19, I'll go ahead and hit that since they are kind of alike. He is in the way of life that keepeth instruction, but he that refuseth reproveth error. He that hideth hatred with lying lips, and he that uttereth a slander is a fool. So we see that kind of going with the lesson here. Emphasizing his point, Paul said, these examples were written down to warn us who live at the end of an age. 1 Corinthians 10:11. These are the last days. Anticipation of Jesus' return should be a constant motivation for godly living. 2 Peter 3:11 through 14. And so we're going to go ahead and go to it. Since everything is to be dissolved in this way, what sort of persons ought to be? Conducting yourselves in holiness and devotion, waiting for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be dissolved in flames and the element melted by fire. But according to his promise awaits a new heavens and a new earth, in which righteousness dwells. Therefore, beloved, since you await these things, be eager to be found without spot or blemish before him at peace, with the Holy Spirit working in our lives, the fellow believers encouraging us to work good works and reminding us of Jesus' soon return. Hebrews 10:23 and 25, which I read the other day, and I'll provide in the descriptions. I'll continue on. We can keep our eyes focused on the one true God who alone is worthy of our worship. Identify one good and one bad example of godly living from the Bible. Well, the Israelites, as explained above. In Proverbs 13:7, 19, and 4. So, Proverbs 13:7. There is that maketh himself rich, yet hath nothing. There is that maketh himself poor, yet hath great riches. So to seek God first, right? And then verse 19, the desire accomplished is sweet to the soul, but it is an abomination to fools who depart from evil. And so to look to our accomplishments and to be motivated and to stay in those things, that's a good example. We'll go to 10:4 now. He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. And so to continue working on these things, so we see a lot of good and bad examples in these few here, and how pride and accomplishments comes into play. But more so, Jesus, walking with him, diligent in prayer, experience to lesson, honoring and respecting, fruits manifestation in it, honored the Father, and encouraged, and inspired others. Holding support system, fellowship, and discipleship. There's a lot of really good examples, and we have bad ones provided for us as well. Thank you for listening, everybody. Have a good day.